Okay, what's up everybody? Gonna do a quick live stream today on Sunday. Still playing around with my live stream, figuring out what are good times. Weekdays are usually great times, but Sundays is when I like to test some new concepts, some new ideas. And so for those of you who happen to be on LinkedIn on Sunday, you get a special treat here. So let's see, looks like we're Yep, we are live. Looks like it's on and working. Okay, great. So here's the thing. And before you guys see what's behind me, so in the world of medtech specifically, right? You hear this across all industries, but in medtech, I keep hearing this thing like, "Oh, we're in the behavior changing industry," right? I hear this from a lot of CEOs that use, kind of throw this term around, but nobody can really give me an answer of like, well, how do you change behavior, right? It's actually a very difficult thing to do. You cannot change behavior, and even you can change behavior, but it's just very difficult. And even with marketers, I tell marketers that your job isn't to change behavior; it's to channel existing behaviors towards your product and service. That's why there's a whole strategy and approach when it comes to finding early adopters, right? You don't want to waste your time selling to somebody who's not ready to change their behavior. You want to find people who have those desires, those behaviors that are already there under the surface. You just have to dig a little bit and unearth them and channel them toward the product. But let's talk about behavior change, because this is a formula I took from BJ Fogg, who is the famous psychologist over at Stanford. His lab gave birth to a lot of, for better or worse, tech companies who came up with extremely addictive apps, right? To be fair to Dr. Fogg, he's developed a lot of great work. His most recent book, Tiny Habits, about how do you create habits, small habits to make you change your behavior. I took his model, I added a little bit to it, but I want to walk you through what this looks like. And for today's example, I'm going to use as towards the end how VR can be applied to surgical robotics, right? Because that's kind of like a convergence right now. So let's get into the formula real quick, okay? And if you are enjoying a coffee, you can join me in a nice sip together. Great, beautiful. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is your behavior change formula. Now, here on the y-axis, we have M, which is for motivation. And on the x-axis, you have E. Now, let's break those down. M is motivation. E is ease, okay? Now, obviously, before looking down here, if you find ways to increase motivation and decrease ease down to zero, you're going to have a behavior change, right? So something that's very simple to do is like, let's say what Coinbase did for buying cryptocurrency. Motivation, people are motivated. They want to make more money, right? Pretty simple to do. It's not illegal. Ease, when it came to cryptocurrency, was very difficult, right? Until Coinbase came around, where you can literally just connect to your bank account. And there was a time where Coinbase allowed you to buy cryptocurrency with your credit card, right? So that's why that company's worth like many billions of dollars. But let's break that down, because that's not enough to understand what changes behavior. M, motivation, can be broken down into two things that sum together. One is individual incentive. The second is social norm. So what does that mean? Individual incentive, exactly what it says. What's in it for me? Because people are motivated selfishly based on what's going to be in it for them, right? That's kind of the emotional drive. Emotions are energy in motion, right? That's how you end up with motivation. Social norm. Now, while we might have an individual incentive, the social norm of something is extremely important. So if something is looked down upon, it's going to be difficult. So let's just say when it comes to getting rich, individual incentive, yeah, everybody wants to make more money. But if it comes to, let's say, let's say like in Japan, right? That's a society that's based on a lot of honor and respect. If somebody leaves their wallet on a bar, no one will pick it up, because while everybody wants to make more money, the social norm of stealing is so strong that wallet will stay there for like months, literally. Right? It's a very redeemable quality of Japanese people. Okay, now let's get to ease, E, right here, okay? Ease can be broken down into two things, opportunity and ability, okay? Let's talk about opportunity. Opportunity means, does this person have the opportunity to make that change? Perfect example. Let's think about, we used crypto before, right? So before Coinbase came around, right, the opportunity, right, to actually invest in crypto was not there. It was very, very difficult, right? Let's look at it in another way. Some people who are trying to start working out in the new year, right? Let's say they're motivated, right? Individual incentive, I want to get in good shape. I want to look good. That's a positive. Social norm. Yeah, everybody's going to support you if you want to get in shape and be healthy, right? So social norm is a positive, okay? And let me move this back a little bit. Hopefully you guys can hear me still. If you can't hear me, please make a comment, okay? Now, let's look at the ease part, right? Let's say the ability. Let's say you're able-bodied, you're in good shape, you don't have any problems. But the opportunity, let's say the closest gym to you is like 20 miles away. That makes the opportunity difficult, right? So then to change that behavior is hard, okay? That's why a lot of people start in the holidays, like I'm gonna work out, etc. But then when January comes and you have to commute to work, more difficult. So when you balance these out between motivation and ease and you break down this formula to understand how behavior change actually happens, then you hit this dotted line right here, which is the action line, right? So again, you can have somebody who's really, really motivated to do something, but if it's not easy for them to do, meaning the opportunity is not there, nor the ability, you're not gonna hit the action line. That's when behavior change happens, right? So let's flip this over. See, I love you guys so much. I bought this whiteboard. I have a whiteboard right here. I bought this whiteboard just for you guys, okay? All right. So breaking that formula down, behavior change equals motivation divided by ease. And again, we look at the variables. There's individual incentive, social norm, divided by opportunity and ability. Now, let's go through a little quick exercise, okay, which is virtual reality. Virtual reality is becoming a big thing, especially when it comes to surgical robotics training, right? So let's look over here, okay? Here's surgical robotics training without VR, okay? And let's take a second to break down these variables. So let's look at the motivation, right? So motivation, individual incentive, right? Individual incentive for like learning how to get trained on surgical robotics. Yeah, that's a positive. I'd say that's good, right? And we'll do I for individual incentives. Social norm. Yeah, social norm is surgical robotics is accepted by peers. Nobody's going to give you any flack for getting trained on surgical robotics. So that's a positive, right? All right. Now, let's head over to the ease. Opportunity and ability, right? Let's start with ability first. So the ability is, let's just say that can somebody has the, are they able to do surgical robotics training? Let's say that they've gone to surgical training, they can do it, right? Did the screen just freeze? Jackie said, did the screen just freeze? Nope, I'm seeing that it's not frozen, but I'll find out later after this live stream. Thank you, Jackie, for that heads up. Let's say the ability is positive. Now, here's the part that makes it difficult when it comes to surgical robotics training, right? Not everybody has access to a surgical robot, right? That's number one, okay? So for opportunity, and on top of it, think about when you go to a robotics training. What do you need? Well, you're not going to always train on a patient. I don't recommend that. You need a cadaver lab. Those are really expensive. I used to run those all the time. Just to do a cadaver lab cost at minimum $10,000 per cadaver. That's the cadaver, the equipment, and everything. Not to mention all the other travels and expenses, right? Super, super expensive, and it's very limiting, right? Because you need surgeons to actually fly to you, etc. It makes it very difficult. So I would say for opportunity, I put a negative. So a lot of surgeons who want to train on surgical robotic systems can't do it because this part is not fantastic. So again, let's say the motivation is here. So motivation is high, social norm is high. But when it comes to ease, you have a negative. I would say it's going to be right around here, right? Maybe it's over here, okay? So then these clusters come right around here, depending on where they are, right? So this is the most unfortunate part, I think, for a med device company, is if you have someone who's very motivated, again, high in motivation, social norm accepts it, so peers accept it, there's individual incentive, but opportunity and ability, if it's low, you're going to end up here. Maybe you end up over here if they have the ability, right? But this is the one area that a lot of med device companies don't take into account. They focus on, okay, people really like our technology, and then it's being accepted by the medical community. but they have to keep in mind, like, what's the opportunity and the ability for that adoption to happen. Now, let's look at surgical robotics training with VR. And by the way, before anybody asks me, none of these things are sponsored. So I'm not sponsored by any VR company. These are literally my thoughts. I have my thoughts about why VR is a good thing and a bad thing, but that's a whole other topic. So let's do the same formula again. All right. Individual incentive, positive. Social norm, positive. Okay. Opportunity, positive. Why? Well, I mean, look at a perfect example. Corey Calendine, Dr. Corey Calendine, who's an orthopedic surgeon, is trained on the Mako robotic system. And I always see him using, in videos, like he's using VR to practice these surgeries, right? So once you use VR in surgical robotics, now you've made that opportunity positive because you actually give somebody the opportunity to do it, right? And then, of course, the ability, positive. So once you do this, well, depending on where you land from a formula standpoint, you've passed this action potential right here, this green line, which is going to dictate whether an action is taken or not, right? So you can be all over here. So now that is how you break down behavior change. And so what I would say is, especially for new technology companies, it is worth the exercise. And again, this isn't it is a formula, but it's still not an exact science. Like how do you quantify like individual incentive over social norm? I don't know. There's a lot of ways you can think about that. But going through the exercise of just qualitatively thinking through things and putting it in a quantitative formula like this will actually help you identify, like, hey, you know, we should invest more in these areas, because you could discover that your ease is very low, in which case you need to find ways to invest in, let's say, going to conferences or engaging. There's different VR companies out there that help with surgical training, right? You want to make it as easy as possible. And here's the other thing. Keep this in mind. Using VR, let's just say, for example, let's say that let's say it's a completely new technology, right? So let's just say the social norm is not there. Let's say the social norm is 0 or something. Individual incentive is there. Then you can use ease. If you increase the ease, you've also increased the chances that your technology is going to propagate and become standard, right? Because at the very least, we don't know who early adopters are. And so that's why you use marketing to attract those people. The other thing is, when it comes to your technology, you have to focus on the ease variable to make it easy for people to actually engage with it. Maybe not in a clinical setting, but at least to see what it's like and how it works. The traditional way that this is done in all med device companies is you spend a lot of money going to conferences and then an extra amount of money for the annual conference, buying a booth and everything. Nothing wrong with that. I think there's a good place for conferences. But the problem with that is that you're putting all your eggs into one basket and you're focusing on going to this one event once a year, which, yeah, it's great, but all your customers are in one place, but you're competing for attention. And what I would say is, if you think about throughout the year, let's just say you go to 10 conferences throughout the year. That's still a lot of conferences. What is being done in between, right? This is where you can think of engineering as marketing. So do you have things on your website to simulate that experience? Even if it's not exact, you're still giving an opportunity, again, and the ability to be in a positive light, so that way it's easier for people to try. So that is my lesson for today. Let me take a look at YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn, and I'll take some questions. I'll take some live questions. So if you have any thoughts, you have any questions, go ahead and drop one down in the comments, and I'm happy to take it live. Let's see. All right, thank you, Jackie. Appreciate it. All right. Well, of the few people who are watching this, it looks like there are no questions, which is totally cool. All right, I'm going to be doing more of these, probably more during the week when there's more traffic, but figured I'd just jump on, give it a try, and see how you guys like it. All right, hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you next time.